First, thank you very much for volunteering for this interview. Can you explain to us like why you came to Ethiopia this time around?
Thank you for having me. I guess the whole world is in Ethiopia today, or this whole week, talking about the financing. I think it is very important that we talk about the FFD, as it's called. Hey, Louis, FFD. Sure. Financing for development. We cannot talk about development when there's no financing. We cannot talk about development when people are not healthy. We can't talk about development when people are not educated. We cannot talk about development when there's no infrastructure. So it's all those things. But where does the money have to come from? Money has to come from our own countries first. You know, it's important that we talk about money from our countries, so that when money comes from other people, it's money for help. You know, domestic financing for me is very important. I flew in Ethiopia, and all I see is all these buildings, you know, erecting. So that's encouraging. It shows that Ethiopians are believing in themselves. The government there's good governance, and people are being given a chance to be able to do things for themselves in their country. So I think there's a lot that we can learn from the Ethiopians as well.
Can you explain to us what the Princess of Africa Foundation is all about? Because I learned that you are engaged in so many things, and this is one of the things that you founded and also is the president. What are the things that you do with this foundation?
The Princess of Africa Foundation, aim or what we are interested in is MDG 4, 5 and 6. Advocacy, you know, high-level advocacy. We work with different organizations as well. I really strongly believe that if you empower young boys and girls, you will never look back and say we did things wrong. Because we keep talking about young boys and girls being the future, but if we don't engage with them now, we will sort of say, what did we do, you know, later. So we engage with different people as well, and organizations. We don't believe in working in silos. We believe when we work with different organizations, we can spread the love, we can spread the work, and we can work together better. That's what the Princess of Africa Foundation does. So we do lots of advocacy as well.
I learned that you also partner with Action Global Health Advocacy. How do you partner with them, and what is the purpose of that?
The purpose, as I said, it's the purpose of me working with different people. It's because most different people do different work. So we engage in different things. They have knowledge in different things, so they empower me as well in other things that I'm not clued up in, because I can't claim to know everything. So I work with different people because they engage in AIDS, TB and malaria, and they do lots of advocacy as well. So as I said, it's important to work with different people. So those are the people who empower the Princess of Africa Foundation as well.
As you know, in this Financing for Development conference, this one is the third one, and a lot of people are gathering here, more than 5,000 people I'm told, and also a lot of heads of states. What do you think should be the goal that most of these participants should achieve? What should be the goal, and what do you expect out of this conference?
I think it's important that conferences like this are there, because people always talk, but I think talks should turn into actions, because you want to see tangible outcomes at the end of the day. It's important when people are converging, sharing ideas and talking about the problems, but finding solutions. So we'd really like to see at the end of the day great infrastructure, people having good health. You know, we can't be talking about people having good life when they're not healthy. So for me, there's absolutely no wealth when there's no health, when people are not educated, when people do not have roofs over their heads, when people are not at school. You can never say there is development. So for me, when all the leaders are sitting there, they need to start saying, let's look in our backyards. What are we not doing correct? Or what are we doing right? And how are we spreading it to other countries or in our constituencies? Take, for instance, in South Africa or in the DRC, there is mining. There's a lot of that. But who benefits? Just a chosen few. You go to other countries where there's vast land, and people still do not own that piece of land. So those are the things that we have to look into and say, how do we make our people benefit from the resources that are there that should benefit everybody? So it's conferences that are like conferences like this that have to actually talk about domestic financing. All the resources that we have domestically should be benefiting our people in our countries.
How optimistic are you this conference will be a success given the wide array of interests that different countries have during all the negotiations that are going to take place?
For the fact that everybody is interested and there are so many people that are here, it means people are concerned and people want to see change and people really want to work. I really don't think people are keen just to come to conferences to talk and not see tangible stuff and not see the outcomes. But the fact that people are concerned and people are coming to talk and sharing ideas, they want to see proper outcomes. And I think now is the time for people to start walking the talk and practicing what they are preaching.
I also realize that you're massively involved in health-related issues. Can you explain to us what is the current health financing for women and girls in Africa?
Well, the 15% that the leaders spoke about in Abuja, how many countries are there? I mean, are actually putting that 15% of their GDP. I think about 7 countries have actually reached that Millennium Development Goal. Rwanda is on 19 or 17%. South Africa, I think we are on 9%. Other countries are not even nearly there. So that is really a shame that we are actually just about right at the end of the Millennium Development Goals. And now we've got 17 Sustainable Development Goals. It actually perturbs me that we will always have these goals. And are we ever going to reach them? Or at the end of the SDGs, we're going to have other goals? I just don't understand. I think countries should look into their own problems and say, these are the problems that we have and this is how we want to tackle our problems. And they understand their problems and their issues and say, this is how we want to go about solving our problems and do that. It is important though, because we live in this global space, that we are open to suggestions and working with other people, because we don't live alone. We live with other people and we do interact with other people, and we need to trade amongst ourselves and talk to each other. You take malaria. Malaria is a disease without borders. So we need to be talking about those things because it spreads. There's global warming, there's TB, there's AIDS, there's so many other guinea worm in this day and age. So there's so many things that are there that we certainly need to be talking about. We've got young children who are born with HIV. Now they are teenagers. Are we talking about those things? These children are starting to engage in sexual relations. Are we talking to them as adults to say, what are we going to be doing to make sure that it doesn't replicate? So there's just so much that we need to be doing. This is for the development and its sustainability. So there's a lot that our leaders, businesses, people, civil societies, and everybody should be sitting and engaging. Because really, if we don't, we'll be judged by the next generation.
Yvonne, I learned also that you have written a letter this year for German Chancellor Angela Merkel and also for Madame Zuma of the African Union. What was the content of that letter and how was it received? How was it received?
The what?
About a letter that you supposedly wrote to world leaders, including to German Chancellor Angela Merkel. I saw it on your profile.
The one for funding?
Yeah.
G7. For the G7. Well, I'm an African. I only have one passport. I can never go and live anywhere else. Obviously, the rich countries, we always plead for their support. And I think it's important that the countries who say they will give funding, they need to stick to their promises. And the recipient countries, I think it's imperative that when they receive that money should be used appropriately and it should go to where it's going to. We see Africa is growing, Africa is rising, and we have to thank those leaders who are doing correct. I know people always say Africa is a dark continent. I don't believe that Africa is a dark continent. Africa is not a dark continent at all. This is a great continent. It needs great leaders. We need the political will, and we've seen that there are so many good African leaders here, but we need to make sure that not just a chosen few have good living.
Yeah.
Everybody should be. We can't be having our brothers dying in the sea today, leaving their countries, and they go and want to have greener pastures outside. What does it say to us as Africans when our brothers are still leaving Africa and go and die at sea? People want to be happy when they're at home. So those are the issues that we need to address. When we have our young people being used as terrorists, it's because they've got absolutely nothing to do, and they find this as easy income for them. So those are the issues that we really need to be talking about. So we need our leaders and business and different people and academia to be talking about these things.
My last question will be, I learned that this is not the first time that you came to Ethiopia. Can you describe to us when you first came to Ethiopia, what was the situation and can you compare it with the present one?
My very first trip to Ethiopia, I think it was in 1993. I was invited by Mr. Ahmed Salim Salim.
The AU former chairperson?
Yes, the AU former chairperson. I think they were changing from the OAU to the AU, and it was amazing. And today, here, it is another world. This, for me, is encouraging. I've got the reason to smile, to say, yes, Africa is rising. This is a typical example to say we as Africans can do it. So there is a lot that we can learn. Otherwise, I would not be saying, I would not be blowing Ethiopia's trumpet. You can see there's so many buildings erecting there. You can see that there is development. So this is a typical example that other African countries can learn from. So I'd like to say to the leaders of Ethiopia, we're proud of what you are doing, and we need to learn from you. And to say to the people of Ethiopia, show us how we do. You are doing it, and we can learn from one another. And I mean, you can see so much development around here, and so we need to continue doing that. We as Africans, we need to do it for ourselves. And here's a typical example that is here.
Okay. The last question will be, it's off topic than the one that you come to Ethiopia this time around. You know that Mandela was trained in Ethiopia. He has been
Yes.
here during the struggle, and many people feel that they have been betrayed after the attack against some Ethiopians, and reportedly some Ethiopians were killed in South Africa during the recent genocide attack. What was your take on that?
Well, in fact, I was actually very privileged that one of the stories that Madiba told me personally was that when he ran away and came, when he was stranded in Ethiopia, he was actually surprised to see a young man being a pilot and being a black man.
Yeah.
Because being a South African, you've always seen a pilot being a white person. And he personally told me the story. He said, darling, when I was sitting there, I saw this young man, and they said, this is going to be a pilot. And I said, this is a black man. And they said, yes. And I said to myself, are we going to reach where we are going? A black man being a pilot. And remember, because I was South African, I'd never seen a black man being a pilot. And so it really shows where we're coming from. And we know that Madiba was welcomed in this country, and he was hidden in this country and protected. Now, I'm going back to saying, I, as Yvonne and the Princess of Africa, I'd like to apologize to all the Ethiopians and the people of the world about the xenophobia that happened in South Africa. I want to say, on behalf of my government, I'm not working for the government, but I know that my president and my Minister of Foreign Affairs and my whole government and the people of South Africa, South Africans are not xenophobic. We as South Africans, we fully understand that half of our people were helped by other African people during apartheid. And they were welcomed, and they were housed, and they were given all the love. So what happened was just in small pockets, I want to say. And South Africans are not xenophobic at all. So what happened was just unfortunate, and I'd like to apologize on behalf of my country and on behalf of myself as the Princess of Africa Foundation president, and saying we love our brothers. We fully know that we are all Africans, and Africa is for all those who live in it. So to those little, the very few people who caused that problem, it's people who probably did not have the understanding that we are all brothers and we're all connected and we all have to be working together. So I don't want the Ethiopians and the Somalis and other African people feel betrayed by South Africans. We are not xenophobic. We are peace-loving people in South Africa, and we fully understand where we come from, where we were housed, and where we were given shelter by other African brothers. So, do not hold a grudge on us. This will never happen again.
Thank you very much, Yvonne. Really appreciate it.